We're continuing in this speech that the Lubavitcher Rebbe gave in the end of 1991, Tafshin Nun Beit, and it's talking about the marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka. And the amazing coincidence that it falls every year in the convention of the Rebbe Shluchim. As you probably know, Chabad is all over the world, and it's all over the world in what seems to be a very organized way, even though it's much more, spontaneous than it seems. But the fact is that almost every city now has a Chabad house, 2 Chabad houses, 3 Chabad houses. They have Moshiach centers and they have Igros Kodesh centers. In any case, Chabad emissaries are all over the world. And once a year, the Rebbe said that they should make a convention. So they make a convention. So this convention always falls out now in this week's Torah portion. This week's Torah portion. So this week's Torah portion is what's called Chayasor, and it talks about not coincidentally, it talks about a shliach. It talks about an emissary, a representative. Abraham sent Eliezer as a representative to find a bride for Abraham's son, for Yitzchak. And the Torah tells us in very, very great detail of the trials and tribulations and doubts and the miracles that occurred to Eliezer on the way to find a bride for Yitzchak. So the question is a double question. Number one, why go into such detail? And number two, why even make an emissary? Why didn't Abraham do it himself? So obviously we see from here that this whole idea of making an emissary, a shliach, is very, very important and very essential. It's something that Abraham could have done, so to speak, by himself. He didn't do it himself. He specifically wanted to make an emissary. And why is it in such big detail? So the Rebbe started to explain, he's going to explain more, that the Jewish people they assumed the task that was given to Abraham. Man was created for responsibility. Man was created for a reason. We're not just here like animals, like birds. We're here for a purpose. We're not here for ourselves. We're not here to go to heaven. That's not why we're here. We do go to heaven, but that's not why we're here. The reason that we are here is in order to fix the world up and to make the world go according to the way God wants. And a big, big part of the world is humanity and human free will. What choices people make every second of their lives, where people direct themselves, what goals they have. And that's the whole idea of the Jewish people. Adam was supposed to have manifested this in the world, but free will is a little bit too tricky and too powerful for him. It was a big surprise to him how tricky his own free will was. He never dreamed that the goal was him, inside of him, that he had to fix himself up. The enemy was inside of him. He had to work on himself, fix himself up according to God. He thought maybe everything was just outside. And if he ate this tree, maybe he could fix it up. But he didn't realize that he had to fix up his own personality, his own being. So that the first person to really get the point was Abraham. And Abraham was now beginning the Jewish people. And the Jewish people essentially began with Yitzchak and Rivka. Yitzchak and Rivka. That's how the Jewish people began. In other words, Abraham began the spark of Judaism. But to give birth to a new nation, this was his son, Yitzchak. So this marriage between Yitzchak and Rivka was really the beginning of I say, fixing up what Adam was supposed to have done. So this is worldwide. This is an amazing worldwide thing. And if you think about it, I mean, it makes sense. If everybody would just have had the goals that are given the Torah, so 99% of the tragedies and wars of the world would have been avoided. People would have made different choices. Attila the Hun wouldn't have decided to go and kill everybody, and Napoleon decided he had to do this, and all these other people, Alexander the Great, let's take over the world. There wouldn't have been all the wars and all the destructions that there were. It depends. The whole thing depends on the Jewish people. Jewish people. So therefore, and where does the Jewish people come from? From this match between Isaac and Sarah. I'm sorry, between Isaac and Rivka, between Yitzchak and Rivka. That's where it really comes. That's the first, so to speak, beginning. Abraham was the starting line, and Yitzchak, he was the beginning of the race. Right? So that's their marriage. That's their marriage. Now, why did Abraham have to make an emissary? This thing was so important. Why did Abraham have to make an emissary in order to carry this out? So that's what we're talking about. So it says, okay, number one, this thing was so important, this marriage between Yitzchak and Rivka, this was going to begin the fixing up of the whole world. That in order to do this, Abraham gave everything that he had to Yitzchak. Everything that he had. He put it in the hands of Eliezer, a deed that says, everything I have, I give to Yitzchak. And that Eliezer could show this to everybody, that Yitzchak was worth getting married to. He had all the riches and all the properties and everything that Abraham had. And the Rebbe asked the question, you don't have to give everything. The Torah says he gave everything. Leave a little for yourself, leave a couple $1,000 or a couple thousand cows or whatever for yourself. What does he have to give everything? Doesn't make any sense. And the Torah tells us he gave everything. It says he gave everything to show how tremendously important this marriage is. Everything he could possibly give over to his son, he gave over to show how tremendously essential and this marriage is. Okay. Explanation of Penimis Enyan. Let's explain this a little bit according to Kabbalistic principles, because this world is run on Kabbalistic principles. It's like no matter how complicated your computer is, if you don't have electricity, the thing's not going to work. Or even more, the computer works because it works according to certain principles in electronics and whatever it is. And if those principles, let's say the person who's fixing it doesn't know, then he can't fix up your computer. So we have to know, in order to fix up the world, what's really going on over here. What's really going on? This marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka is so tremendously important. So, okay, we'll take the Rebbe's word for it. The Rebbe says, no, I don't want you to take my word for it. I want to explain it to you. So you'll have more of a, let's say, not just take my word for it, you got to take my words for it. I'm going to explain it to you, and you'll have to accept them also. Listen, but understand as much as you can. Here we go. Ready? In Likkutei Torah, in the end of the Parashat Bracha, the Alter Rebbe explains, a book written by the Alter Rebbe. This is what we're going to learn more in another half a year or so. The Alter Rebbe explains that the marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka, spiritually, this is the most general, encompassing aspect of the Torah. Ubakal Seder Ishtalshlus, and in all of creation. The marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka, this is the highest level, the source of all reality, of the Torah, of creation. And this expresses the whole service of man to God. That's the whole reason we're here. Man is in the world for a reason. Without this reason, no man. Without this reason, there's no human beings. Yichud, Ma, and Ban. The unification of Yitzchak and Rivka. Hainu a Yichud, the uniting of the soul, which that's called Ma, and I'll explain what this Ma is. We talked about it before. And the body, Ban. Okay, Ma is 45, and Ban is 52. So this is the uniting of the spiritual 45 and the spiritual 52. What does that mean? What does that got to do with? So these are different aspects of God. God's name is showing aspects of God. Aspects of God. And like I said before, the essence of what God wants is this world. That's what the Torah is for. The Torah comes to tell us how tremendously, infinitely important every detail of this world is to the Creator, to God. But what it means it's important that God wants it to go in the right direction. And he left it up to us to take the right direction. He's not going to force us because it has to be done with our free will. And that's the whole thing of the Jewish people, and especially of Yitzchak and Rivka. So Yitzchak, that represents this name of God, which is called Ma, and Rivka is the name of God, which is called Ban. Okay, again, what does it mean, the name of God? The name of God, there's a lot of different names of God, but the main name of God is Yud, and then Hey, then Vav, and then Hey. The numerical value of that is 26. It depends how you fill up the letters. You fill them up phonetically. Yud is Yud, Vav, Dalet. So Yud alone is 10, and Vav, Dalet is another 10, so that's 20. So there's different ways of filling up these letters. So let's say you have the value, numerical value of Yud K Vav K is 26. As soon as you fill it up with Vav Dalet, the Yud, it becomes 36. 36 and 36, right? And if you add another two Hays, like Hey Aleph, so then it becomes 38. 38. And if you, to the letter Vav, you put Vav, Aleph, Vav, you fill it up with Aleph, Vav, then that comes out to be 45. 45. And the name Ban is done by filling it up a little different way, by filling up the Hays with another Hey. Hey. Okay, so this comes out to be the numerical value of one way of spelling God's name, filling up God's name is 45. And another way of filling up, okay, what's this mean to us? Generally speaking, the name Ma represents spiritual, and Ban is physical. Ma is usually how God's influences come down from above to below. That's the masculine aspect, coming down, giving. And the Ban, that's God's aspect from the world going up, like Mother Earth. Everything grows up from the earth. That's Ban. So Yitzchak, therefore, he represents this name Ma, which is all of the blessings that God brings into the world. And Rivka, that represents this name Ban, which is all the inspiration of the Jews to serve God from below to above. And that's the unification of these two, unification of Yitzchak and Rivka is the unification of our work from below to above, that's Rivka, and God's blessing from above to below. That's the unification between the Jewish people, that's like Rivka, and God, Kodesh Baruch Hu. Okay, so like I said before, this requires a lot of faith, but the faith is based on facts. There is such a thing as the Jewish people, and the Jewish people do have the Torah, and God does want us to do something with the Torah, or someone wants to do something with the Torah, and the Torah is there to be fulfilled. You have to do things. And we Jewish people claim that it was God that did it. And, you know, I mean, it's a very interesting claim, but it's got facts to support it. What facts? Here we are. We're still here. Everybody hates us. They've been trying to destroy us for thousands of years. That's historical facts. For thousands of years, trying to destroy us. And here we are, Jewish people, and we still know we're Jews, and even non-Jewish, religious Jews. So there's something weird going on over here. Something that's not normal, the Jewish people. And the Torah also, we keep claiming that it's true. There's all these people saying the Torah has been changed, the Torah has been lost, Torah has been this, and it doesn't work. Here's the Jewish people in the Torah, they're eternal. And we say the reason they're eternal because God is giving it. And when you do a commandment, you're connecting to God. And God reacts. That's the message of the Jewish people to the world. The Jewish people are not like anything else in creation. The Jewish people are here to manifest the Creator's will, to bring blessing into the world, to make the world a better place. So the unification between Yitzchak and Rivka is the only way that this world is going to become better. Unifying Ma, which is God's blessing, and Ban, which is our work. That's the unification of Jewish people and God. And it makes them all one. Kafi shezeh yeh, like it's going to be in the future redemption. We actually believe Moshiach is going to come. In the beginning of Yerushalayim, first of all, there has to be the engagement party. The engagement party, that was the giving of the Torah. But the marriage is going to be when Moshiach comes. Okay, so you thought it was difficult to believe that God is here. This is part of the whole business. You want the whole package? Here it is. This is the whole package. Right? There's a lot of Jews that they're willing to have faith that God exists, but let's not exaggerate, little by little. So we're willing to we'll do the Torah, we'll do the commandments, we'll do everything. But this thing of Mashiach is going to come and he's going to change everything, and only Mashiach is going to bring all the Jews to Israel. Come on, that's a little bit too much. So the Rebbe says it's not too much. That's the truth. Just the way you had to make a big jug to believe that God even exists, and then another one to say that God gave the Torah, and then another one to say that the Torah is really relevant, and then another one to say that God really reacts to what we do. Now you're going to have to make a bigger jump, and that's Mashiach is going to come. Mashiach is going to come, and he's going to manifest this whole entire business so that what we're reading now, this is going to be obvious to everybody. It'll be obvious. Just like now it's obvious to us, you get into an airplane and you fly. You get into a car, you drive, right? 200 years ago, 300 years ago, they think you're nuts. What are you talking about? You have a little key, you put it in a hole, and you turn it, and all of a sudden the thing goes 100 miles an hour. Where did you get that from? And it's dangerous. It's a big piece of too fast. I remember I saw advertisements. This is like in the early 1900s, that doctors said that if a person went more than 30 miles an hour, he would die. More than 30 miles an hour, your heart cannot take the speed, and etc. And it was scientifically because it was incomprehensible. Now it's obvious. You get in a car, you drive. What's the point? You get in a plane, you fly. Right? It's an obvious thing. There's some people who are afraid of it, but it's still everybody knows it's obvious. The same thing in the future, and it's supposed to be any second now. All this that we're learning about now is like looking at a car 100 years ago, 200 years ago. Car, plane, what are you talking about? But when Mashiach comes, this is going to be the obvious. This is going to be reality. When the Jews do Torah and commandments, they become like Rivka. That's the Shem Ban, and they elicit a blessing from God immediately. That's the Shem Ma. That's the same thing as Yitzchak. This all began when God took the Jews out of Egypt. God took the Jews out. That's the basis of Judaism. Then this is the whole service of man doing the Torah and the commandments in this physical world. Uniting Ma, God's blessing, Uban, and our work. Torah, the whole novelty of the giving of the Torah is expressed in this. That then, when God gave the Torah, so God came down to the Jewish people because the Jewish people had suffered in Egypt. So that sent up, so to speak, the message. And God reacted. He gave the Torah that then was expressed. Then there was negated the decree that separated between the upper worlds and the lower worlds. Ruchnius and Gashmius, spiritual and physical. Ma, which is spiritual, and Ban. And Mount Sinai, the whole division went away. As Nitanakok, that was given the power to join and to unite the spiritual, the physical, and the spiritual. Excuse me, Shaguf Gashma, that the physical body, but Davar Gashma and physical things, Yasa Kedush could become holy. Until Le Chefza Shel Kedusha. They actually become holy items. A Sefer Torah becomes godly. Shleimus Yichud, this is the complete unification of the physical world, of our work and the physical world, and the spiritual worlds become united in physical things. The tefillin, you have the Sefer Torah, but Tachlit Shleimut, and the ultimate completion and revelation. And that will be the revelation. That's what's going to be when the Moshiach. There'll be a Geula Amitit Vashlema, a total, complete revelation. Even more, then says even more that the spiritual won't be the main thing. The physical will be the main thing, like we're going to learn later. We're going to get to that. And this, it's explained in the Kuti Torah. This is explained in the Kuti Torah of the first Rebbe of Chabad. Madua, why is it that the Torah takes so long in explaining the job of Eliezer? Why is it that Abraham had to make an emissary to do all this? And why the Torah tells us so many seemingly repetitive and unnecessary details about what Eliezer did and what he said, going to find a until the thing of Eliezer is it even doubled over in the Torah. It's very interesting. The Torah tells us what Eliezer did, and then afterwards it says that he came and met up with Lavan, and he repeats the whole story again. I want to tell you what I did and where I went and what I said and what I word for word. Why does it have to repeat it again? Because this was the whole idea of the shlichus, of the mission of Eliezer, namely to refine and to draw down this unity of Ma and Ban, of Yitzchak and Rivka, to draw down godliness, a unification of God with the world, in preparation for the giving of the Torah. And that this is the idea of nisuin. This is what's going to be in the Moshiach. That's going to be the actual marriage. It says the giving of the Torah, that was like the engagement. The consummation of the wedding is going to be with Moshiach. Simply meaning, Rivka was, she lived in a place called Padan Aram, which is outside of Israel. She was by Betuel and Lavan Arami. She was by Betuel and Lavan. Lavan was her brother, and Betuel was her father. And she was there among all these evil people. They were terrible people. Kashoshana bein achochim. It says like a rose growing up among the thorns, among the weeds. Bechinas ban. She was the level of ban, physical work from the world up. Shlichato, the whole mission of Eliezer was in this, sheyotzi misham, that he should take Rivka out from there, v'yavia ota, and bring her up to be the wife of Yitzchak. Yitzchak says was an Ola Tamima. Yitzchak never left the land of Israel. He was born in Israel and he remained in Israel. That's why he didn't take Yitzchak to meet her outside of Israel. Because Yitzchak had to be holy. Yitzchak was born after Abraham circumcised himself. He was born from what's called a holy seed. Yitzchak was the level of Ma, pure godliness. And he wanted them to get married so that they would become one flesh, the uniting of Ma and Ban. That they would build a home in Israel, in this physical world, Agashmi, physical mundane world. Kasher Atachlit, and the whole purpose is to give birth, Kapshuto, the birth of tzaddikim are good deeds. In other words, physical things in this world, that from it can come all of the Jewish people until the end of all generations. So according to this, according to this, now it's understood that the mission of Eliezer, the first mission, the first shlichus, he was the first emissary, first representative that's written in the Torah. This gave the power to actually bring this about. Avoda shall unifying ma and ban, unifying godliness with the world and the world with godliness, and to give birth to fruits. Something new comes out of it in serving God. This begins at the giving of the Torah. That was like the the engagement party. Umisham, from then, Nimshach is drawn down to all time and all places. The whole entire world recognizes the Creator and recognizes that the Torah is the only instructions of the Creator until the total completion in this, in the Gula Mitiv Veshlima, in the true future redemption. So therefore we can say that this mission of Eliezer, this hints at what it says, Eved Avraham Anochi. The whole essence of what a Jew is, the whole essence of what the Shluchim are servants of Abraham. Yesh le'Eliezer et hakoach. Eliezer has the power to bring about the unification of Ma and Ban. Avram didn't want to do it himself. He wanted to begin this whole idea that there will be emissaries, that we have the power to do it. Or in our generation, the same thing. The Rebbe doesn't want to do it himself. He wants there to be emissaries. B'nisui Yitzchak v'Rivka. Also, the main thing is Tavdun et Elokim al har hazeh, to serve God on this mountain, on the Mount Sinai. That was, God said to Moses at the burning bush. The burning bush was on Mount Sinai. And this was a couple of years before God took the Jews out of Egypt. And this, the revelation of Anochi and Matan Torah. God revealed his essence at the giving of the Torah. Let's just start this next one. But still, we have to explain. According to this, that the fact that the Torah takes so much time and pages and paragraphs to explain what Eliezer did in order to bring about the birth of Yitzchak and the marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka, this indicates on this general idea of unifying Ma and Ban. It should have been about the marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka. That was the goal. Why does it take so much time talking about what Eliezer did? Why is so much time? Good, okay, Abraham wanted to make an emissary. He wanted to begin this whole idea of representatives and emissaries. Good, okay, so he did it. He did it, so that's it. Why does it have to repeat what Eliezer did before he even met up with Rivka? He went and he said to himself, if there comes out the camels, then she gives camels to eat, and she says, you also to eat. And all of a sudden it happened. He went there, and all of a sudden the camels came out. And he said to the came out Rivka, and she said, I'll give to the camels, I'll give to you. And then after that, he goes to Lavan, and he tells the story over again. Why such a big detail, so many details over here, before the actual meeting of Rivka and Yitzchak? Why? Why doesn't it tell us more about what happened when Yitzchak actually met Rivka? Why does it deal so much with the preparation? Madua Richas Torah Kokach, by the Shlichus itself, how Abraham made him swear, and all the details about how we went, and Eliezer did, right, and did what he did. Why talk so much about Eliezer? Why is Eliezer the star of this week's Torah portion? First of all, Eliezer wasn't really even a Jew, but he was the emissary of Abraham, so that made him connected to Abraham. Good, very good, okay. But the 80% of this Torah portion is talking about what Eliezer did and what he said and what he thought and what he went and what he tried and what he did. What he repeated. Why is he the star of this week's thing? Give him an honorable mention and tell us the main thing, the unification of Ma, Yitzchak, and Ban, and Rivka. From this, it's understood that the mission of Eliezer must be somehow or other connected to the essence of this unification of Ma and Ban. We can say that one of the explanations in this is the inner reason that Eliezer had to be a shliach, and he wasn't just a matchmaker. He was in the place of Abraham. Shekain bichdei lepol, because in order to do this service, to bring about this of unifying Ma and Ban, God and the world, it had to be so also by the person who did it. What? That he had to be himself, both things. On one hand, like a matchmaker, Ban, separate like the world, and at the same time, he had to be Mitziu Zu Titbatel and be totally unified with Ma, that he was an extension of Abraham. So Eliezer had to personify in himself, embody in himself these two opposites of Ma and Ban. Ma is total godliness, and that Eliezer was totally surrendered to Abraham, totally surrendered. He made an oath. You have to do exactly what I say. On the other hand, Eliezer had to be an independent agent, like a matchmaker. He had to make sometimes his own decisions. Why? Because he himself embodied the unification of godliness and the world. So he himself had to be, on one hand, totally negated to Abraham, like godliness. And on the other hand, he had to be a free agent on his own, like the world. A shliach, therefore, a true shliach, has to be composed of two opposites at the same time. And they can't contradict one another. On one hand, he has to be a separate entity in his own. Bar dat, he has to have his own personality, his own talents. He has to make his own choices. But Allah, liot batal, he has to be totally surrendered to the one who's sending him. To recognize that his whole existence is only that he is a messenger. He's an emissary. Lo l'shanot, not to change from the will of the one who sent him. Imu mishaneh, if he changes what the one who sent him, then he stops to being a shliach. The Rebbe said our only point, our only goal now is to bring Moshiach. And he has made us shluchim to bring Moshiach. And anyone who doesn't try to do this, then he's not a shliach anymore. He's an agent. He's a matchmaker. You have to know that you are doing whatever you do. It's not with your power. You're doing it. The one who's sending you, he made you into the emissary. You can never think that I am a separate entity on my own. The Rebbe once gave an example, and with this we'll finish the class. We'll go next week, tomorrow. The shlucha adam kamoto, he has to be like an extension of the person who's sending him until he actually becomes the person who's sending him. The Rebbe once gave an example that you take a rocket ship. They send the rocket ship, they put an astronaut in the rocket ship, and they're training this astronaut. They pick out the best person possible, and they train him for like a year, put millions and millions of dollars into his training, and etc. And they're going to send them up to make, to investigate Mars or whatever it is, yours, Saturn, something like that. So they send them out, and they say, okay, we've been preparing for a year, and here's the launching has been successful. And okay, ground to astronaut. Now let's do experiment number one. And he said, drop dead. What? So it's ground to astronaut. Hello, is that you? So that's me. That's me. I've been taking orders from you fellows for a little bit too long. Now on my own. So listen, we want you to be on your own, but I mean, you have to remember, you're sent up there to do a job. So you have to do the job. Hello, do a job. Are you listening? Hello, astronaut to ground, signing off. That's it. He sounds like what's going on. Now, of course, the Rebbe didn't give with all the, ridiculous examples I gave, but the Rebbe still gave the example. He sent an astronaut, and the astronaut decides to do whatever he wants. God sent us in this world for a purpose, and as long as we do the purpose, then we are connected to the ground. But as soon as we don't do the purpose anymore, then that's ridiculous. How can we do it? So the Rebbe said the same thing. The whole purpose of the Kiddush Shluchim, that's how he started off, is to bring Moshiach and to talk about Moshiach and to think about Moshiach. That's the whole purpose of it. And here the Rebbe says something very, very sharp, that if you change and you don't do what the person who sent you, then you're not even a shliach anymore. So if so, it'll be the convention of ex-shluchim. Very bitter words, very not nice to say, but here the Rebbe is saying it. Chadal liot shliach. That's the whole idea of the unification of ma umban. So me and you, the Rebbe said right earlier that we are all shluchim, each and every one of us, every single Jew. And eventually every single human being that gets the point. So we have to be permeated, each one in his own way, because we have to be individuals, and each one, but you have to keep in your mind, is this what the Rebbe would really want? Is this really what the Rebbe would want? And so we have to be separate, independent agents, like Rivka was. She was Ban, and we have to be totally unified with the source, like Eliezer, like Yitzchak was, the son. And Eliezer, he embodied these two things. He embodied the aspect of Rivka, that he was a separate agent, he could make his own decisions, but he also had to be totally united with the cause and the purpose every moment that he was doing his job and making these decisions. Is this really what Abraham would want? Is this what Eved Avraham Anochi? Let us now learn the Yom Yom.